Being self-motivated is the cornerstone of a lot of things people ask me about. Spinning poi, running a social media channel, what have you. I've been running my own channel for nearly a decade and a half now. So how do I motivate myself to do the work and keep the trains running? That's the topic of this video. Drex here from Drex Factor Poi, sharing with you the love of poi spinning and flow arts to benefit your body and brain. And today, we're talking about that most fickle and fleeting of spirits, motivation. Before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Flow DNA, Flow Fests, Flow Toys, Juggling Calling, Pyroterra Light Toys, Spinballs, and Ultrapoi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all these amazing companies and the work that they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by checking out the links that I've got down in the description of this video. And a special thanks to the first non-business friend of the channel, Johnny Howard. Thanks so much for your support, Johnny. I have been doing this channel for 13 freaking years. I've delivered at least a video a week with a couple exceptions in that time, and I've built an audience through consistency, all the while battling depression and working to make the thing sustainable. So how do I keep myself motivated through all that? So it's here that I have to confess that I may have hoodwinked you. You see, most of the time I don't feel very motivated at all. It's one of those really unpleasant side effects of depression. Motivation doesn't really happen. Motivation is fleeting enough as it is. Let's face it, some days it's there and some days it really isn't. So I don't really trust motivation. I don't use it to guide me. What I do depend on is discipline, because it's a thing that I can practice, acquire, and improve on over time. And I've been doing that for so long that doing it is almost like breathing the air to me. How to engage in self-motivation and/or discipline is a thing that's come up in several conversations recently. So how exactly do I talk about a thing that's become really transparent to me? Well, I started writing down some of the things that I do that I think make me somewhat unique or that I consider to be important for getting things done. It was originally intended to be a top 5 list, and then it kept going. So now it's up to 10. Surprise! Hopefully one or more of these are things that you can practice or work on, and that will help you in developing your own discipline or self-motivation. So, let's dive in. First and foremost, create rituals. Create habits. Create practices that are a regular part of your day or week that help you get things done. It takes a while to build these. From some research I've looked at, it seems like 6 weeks of a regular ritual is about the threshold to getting it integrated into your habits and something your body and brain are both expecting. Sometimes this means setting down a specific time every day or every other day that you do a specific thing. Or maybe it's event specific, like after you come home from work, you unwind with 30 minutes of flow, whenever getting home from work happens to happen for you. The point is though, make this stuff regular. Make sure you're expecting it. Get to a point where doing this stuff regularly feels normal. But setting down those rituals only gets you so far unless you take on the second piece of the puzzle. And that is set goals for yourself and what you're doing. And when I say set goals, what I mean here is to do it both in the long term and the short term. For example, I have a goal to hit for a certain financial goal for this year that I then break down into individual financial goals for each month that are reflected both in the sponsorships that I seek out as well as the traffic that I try and get to my channels. This is super important when it comes to your practice time too. If all you do when you sit down to practice is the same 4 tricks over and over again, you're neither going to see much progress nor is it going to feel particularly fulfilling. But if you sit down and say, I'm going to learn all the VTG hybrids, or I'm going to improve my behind the back planes or the like, it gives that work some direction, and that's super helpful for getting the most out of that practice time. And sometimes you kind of need to trick yourself into attaining goals. So you bundle them together with another goal in order to help you get there. I call these proxy goals, but I've heard economists refer to this practice as reward bundling. What does that mean? So for one example, say you like to play video games after you get done with work. You can set a new rule for yourself that you don't play video games until you've gotten at least 30 minutes of flow in. That way, you have something fun waiting for you at the end as a reward to yourself for having done your work for the day. I'll frequently take this in a slightly different direction. For example, I started running a couple years ago before the pandemic and basically set a rule for myself that I couldn't start work on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday until after I'd run and stretched. Because I get anxious when I'm not working, it meant that to get there, I had to get my run in first. Another example, when I first started posting videos, part of the reason I did so was that it gave me a reason to practice. If I had to record a video every week, then I had to practice so that I had something to show in a video, right? Sometimes setting a proxy goal like this can be a way around whatever blocks you have to motivating yourself if the results are going to be something that impacts another thing in your world. And I will be the first to admit, setting goals can be really intimidating. How on earth do you achieve them? Well, that comes down to our next tip. Break things down into smaller steps. You aren't going to get very far in achieving any goal if you don't break it down into both immediate and longer-term deliverables. Right now, I'm working on learning a gunslinger trick that I think looks really cool. But to learn it, I also have to improve my spiral wraps with my left hand, train myself to perform gunslingers in split same and wall playing, and work to perform my spiral wraps as my hands are moving up and down. I have drills for working each skill that I do every time I sit down to practice. Admittedly, this can be really challenging in topics that you're not super familiar with, so sometimes it's helpful to do a bit of research as you get into them. Is there somebody who's outlined the steps to get to a particular goal that's done it before? Are there similar projects that you can look to for inspiration? What do you think you need to get from point A to point B? Try it and see what works and what doesn't. If all that sounds like a bit of a mess, well, it can be. Not everything you try is going to turn out to be the perfect version of itself. And that takes us to my next tip. Get comfortable with good enough. And yes, all the former gifted kids in the audience just felt their hearts seizing up for a moment there. Look, this isn't to say that you shouldn't strive for perfection, that you shouldn't reach to get as close to creating the thing you see in your head as you possibly can. But perfection is the enemy of progress. The more you focus on getting it perfect, the less likely you are to reach your goal at all. Nobody gets to their master work without a whole lot of attempts or other projects that don't really reach the height of their ambition. That's okay. You're supposed to keep trying and working through the kinks. I've published thousands of videos in my career, and I can think of less than a dozen that I actually think were either anywhere close to what I'd intended or even results I'd be proud enough to show others as a sample of my work. And closely coupled with this is going to be another tip that is going to make a lot of y'all out there catch your breath. And it's to embrace deadlines. Set them for yourself, and more importantly, keep them. This is not to say that every deadline is written in blood. Sometimes a project needs an extra day or week to be ready to drop. That happens. But setting deadlines and trying to stay within them is something that will absolutely help cultivate discipline. Because here's the thing. When we say a thing is done when it's done, then we can keep coming up with reasons to hold on to it. We get into scope creep. We allow anxiety about a thing to fester and multiply. Sometimes good enough is what you can accomplish by your deadline. And that's fine. Embrace this because it means you get done with the thing and you can move on to the next one. This means that you'll be creating regularly and guaranteeing that you regularly practice the things that you're working on. That gets you closer to your goals. These things are all linked together. But wait, you say, if I'm constantly just pushing stuff out the door, how do I even know if I'm improving at it? Well, friend, that takes us to our next tip. Track your progress. Whatever you're working on, be sure to make record of it relatively frequently, and then take a moment every, say, 3 to 6 months and compare your most recent result with one from the beginning of that period. My guess is you'll be surprised by what you see. Not only will you spot areas in which you've improved, I'll also guarantee that you'll spot places in which you want to improve that you haven't even considered yet. I have totally had moments where I felt like I was floundering in working on a new skill. And then using this method had an epiphany that, although slow, I was making progress, and that gave me some hope. Don't underestimate the potential of this both to give you a feeling of pride, as well as to show you ways you never knew that you could improve at whatever you're doing. Okay, so for these last 3 tips, we're going to switch over into some nitty-gritty of ways that you can make your work or practice more efficient. Working on discipline and self-motivation is helpful, but you'll eventually hit a plateau in what you can get done, and you'll need to start working on how you can get it done more efficiently. Here are some tips on that. I know this sounds like a super obvious one, but make to-do lists. This is especially true if you're self-employed, but you're gonna find it difficult to prioritize tasks without following this step. This is honestly one of the first things I do every morning as I'm eating breakfast. I'll outline things I want to try and get done that day. And it'll be a mix of things that are either immediate to-dos in order to make a deadline, smaller items that get me closer to a bigger goal, or even personal errands that I need to get out of the way. And here's a big tip inside of this one. I always find at least 1 or 2 items that I either need to or want to get done in a given day that were not originally on my to-do list. and I'll add them after the fact and still cross them out. It shows me that I'm still being productive and getting things done, and those items are just as important to keep track of as the ones that I set down at the start of the day. Next up, this is a thing that has been incredibly important to me in my own work on this channel, especially in the past few years. Whenever possible, work in batch. There are a few processes that are not made more efficient by taking specific tasks from them and performing them at scale rather than one at a time. For example, last year when I was doing my pandemic tutorials, you know how I kept up the pace of posting a video a day? I shot all of them in a single session over the weekend. I'd then edit and post them over the course of the coming week as I plan for the next week's content. When I sit down to write, I try to write multiple scripts at a time. When I shoot videos, I almost never do one-off videos because they're just not terribly efficient. That way, not only am I keeping my focus on one task at a time, I also find that I have a queue of content to draw from on the days that I'm struggling, and that's a huge help. And my final tip, both for increasing productivity as well as improving discipline, external accountability. I know, this is the scariest idea of them all. I think a lot of us, especially those of us with the urge to become self-employed, are doing so specifically because we are looking to avoid having to prove ourselves to others or be seen inside of a system. So why sign up for the exact same thing that we were trying to get out of? Well, it's because you can take it on your own terms. This definitely somewhat overlaps with the idea of proxy goals that I shared earlier in this video, but when it comes right down to it, any business has to operate by serving its customers. All content creators have to serve their viewers. All performers have to serve their audience. All teachers have to serve their students. And this is a good thing. This keeps you honest. When you're left to your own devices, you can get stuck in your own head, both about the quality of what you're producing, as well as the merits of it as a piece of work. Having people outside of yourself for whom you have to deliver a thing and who will comment on the merits of said thing helps to give you perspective. It helps make you consider other viewpoints. And it should be said too, it's impossible to avoid if you're trying to be self-employed. While you may be your own boss at that point, you absolutely have to think about who you are producing things for. As a content creator, my supporters on Patreon and the people commenting on my videos are absolutely invaluable. They're the people that I stay on my deadlines for. They're the people I'm trying to help with my content. I do also just need to point out here that there's a big difference between validation and accountability. Validation is seeking approval of the work that you produce. Accountability is an honest evaluation both of the work and how you've delivered it. Lots of people in the flow arts are seeking the former whether they know it or not, and honestly, I find the latter to be much more helpful, especially as an entrepreneur. Goodness, but wasn't that a lot? That was actually a really helpful exercise for me. I knew there were some things I did that were either helpful to me or that were very different from some other artists or content creators out there. But doing the work of identifying them and explaining them really helped crystallize a lot about my own process that I was only kind of aware of before this. And while we're at it, if you are interested in setting out on your own and working to become self-employed with a creative skill, I might be able to help. I offer a course over at my learning site at learn.drexfactor.com on how to get started earning a living as an artist on Patreon. You can get the course for 50% off by using the code BETA at checkout. So give that a look at the link either down in the description or up in the cards if you're watching this video on YouTube. Did you get anything out of this video? Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to help keep the conversation going and to help my channel grow. Do you like poi content? Do you like tutorials, flow sessions, and vlogs on flow arts culture? Consider signing up to support my work. I want to bring flow arts to the wider world and help people connect with their brains and their bodies through prop spinning. So help me do it. Head on over to patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi and sign up. You can do that either by clicking on the card that just popped up on YouTube or by using the link down in the description. Not only will you be supporting this mission, but you'll also be able to get early access to all of my content, a vote in what content I produce in the future, and a host of other awesome rewards, such as getting a special weekly poi lesson delivered to your inbox that is available only to my supporters. Go give that a look, and please consider supporting this channel. Thank you in advance. And on the topic of thank yous, I just wanted to throw out a huge one because this video would not be possible without the kind support of these wonderful people right here. These are my Flow patrons over on Patreon, and they, along with the people listed down in the description, help to make this video and all the videos on my channel possible. I hope you appreciate them and their support for this content as much as I do. Do you wrestle with discipline or self-motivation? Do you find staying productive when you're on your own challenging? I think you're not alone. Leave me a comment and let me know what you're struggling with, and I might just make a video on that topic. Thanks so much for watching. I'm going to leave a link to a playlist of other videos I've done with content about content creation down in the description or up on screen if you're watching this video on YouTube. Make sure to get outside to flow, and I'll see you with a new video on Wednesday. Peace.